to the shirt, right?
And then, where's the number? So now he's on.
Yeah.
Okay. Do this on.
Yes. We're good? Did it say something?
Yeah, you're framed, you're looking good. My mama says you're beautiful.
Tony has an item to.
Yeah, to donate
yeah.
for the gift.
This is for the gifts?
For the yeah.
Okay. That's a good one. Into the door prize, just so you know.
Wow.
All right, thank you, Tony.
Welcome.
All right.
Well, good evening, everybody, to Sacred Grounds.
Good evening.
As it says here, hear ye. Welcome to Sacred Grounds with Dan Brady as the current host of, and our wonderful owners, Fiona and Ted. Let's thank them. And for those of you who didn't know, Sacred Grounds is the longest running open mic known and unknown universe, serving up good food and fine poetry since 1972.
72.
Please support this reading by enjoying the food and drink served here, and let's have a big hand for all of us that have showed up. Okay, so simple. Poetry of all kinds, ladies and gents, is welcome, but we do ask you to respect the mic. Like right now I'm talking, and you all are talking. In other words, shh. Keep conversations to a whisper, put phones on mute or vibrate, and do not distract the speakers or pass in front of them. Also, keep to the time limit, and that may change because we do, as the host, Dan Brady said, do need to be out here at 9:45. So you get about around 5-ish, but that can change. Remember, we've got two shows, the 7 and the 8:40-ish. So they ask generosity by going short if it helps everyone get on the mic. Do you want me to make the announcement about features? Or?
Yes.
So Dan has let us know because of issues with communication and verification and confirmation. That could be a writing prompt. There will be no features for this evening. They will be rescheduled at a later date. So like I said,
Features.
we're all features.
That's the theme. We're all features.
Please keep in mind that this is recording live. So you're going out to the stratosphere, and also it will be posted later on by Dan Brady to the Facebook website, Sacred Grounds News Open Mic.
So if you do, that's where the video actually goes to that location, and then I post the links in the Facebook. So there's ways of getting it.
Perfect. So let's remember tonight that our theme is food for thought. Our mini feature tonight is Tommy Avocola Mecca. Our last word for tonight is Donovan C. He's not here yet, but he knows that. And I'm going to be your keynote. So lucky me.
There you go.
Okay, and I think
Oh, the door prizes.
yeah. So we have a lot of door prizes, and I'll let the host announce those.
You saw the shirt, support the local poets. That's one. Wildlife magazine with free inserts. National Geographic, The Arctic. In case you didn't know, they have melting going on. Jack Foley was here a couple of weeks back. This is one of his books, and a little nice monograph thing in there. He said I could give those away. This is a recorder bought by Tommy, actually his friend, roommate, friend, whatever, right? Roommate, yeah. Roommate didn't want it anymore, said bring it here. Make sure you know how to clean these things. Penny whistle in the key of F. Crash landing from the stars. Why don't you write my eulogy now so I could correct it? Tony Bennett. Branford Marsalis, Pirate Hunters by Richard Zacks, and of course, if those don't float your boat, you can make note. You can do the last word, be the mini feature, do the keynote. One of the co-pilots, which are these individuals here who help me keep sane, and then choosing the theme or prompt, which someone did last week, which made it food for thought. Right? You might know that this is an auspicious anniversary. I'm going to make note of that in my piece, but other people may want to do that too. So
Yes,
there we go.
I have some 9/11 haikus.
Yes.
This needs to turn it up a little bit.
Okay, without further ado, I guess we'll get this show on the road. I'm your keynote tonight. My name is Vincent Calvaries. And I thought for food for thought, as well as being 9/11, I'm going to read a poem by Richard Blanco. Oh, just to remind everybody, if you read somebody else's work or you quote other people's work, we have a sign sheet for that. Our host wants to make sure that we give credit where credit's due, and we're not pretending that somebody else is speaking. Okay?
You get this.
So I'll start it off. So this is called America by Richard Blanco. 1. Although Tia Miriam boasted she discovered at least half a dozen uses for peanut butter, topping for guava shells in syrup, butter substitute for Cuban toast, hair conditioner, and relaxer, Mama never knew what to make of the monthly 5-pound jars handed out by the immigration department until my friend Jeff mentioned jelly. 2. There was always pork, though, for every birthday and wedding, whole ones on Christmas and New Year's, even on Thanksgiving Day. Pork, fried, broiled, or crispy skin roasted, as well as cauldrons of black beans, fried plantain chips, and yuca con mojito. These items required a special visit to Antonio's Mercado on the corner of 8th Street, where men in gabaneras stood in Senate blaming Kennedy for everything. Ese hijo de puto. The bile of Cuban coffee and cigar residue filling the creases of their wrinkled lips, clinging to one another's lies of lost wealth, ashamed and empty as hollow trees. 3. By 7, I had grown suspicious we were still here. Overheard conversations about returning had grown wistful and less frequent. I spoke English. My parents didn't. We didn't live in a 2-story house with a maid or a wood panel station wagon, nor vacation camping in Colorado. None of the girls had hair of gold. None of my brothers or cousins were named Greg, Peter, or Marcia. We were not the Brady Bunch. None of the black and white characters on Donna Reed or on the Dick Van Dyke Show were named Guadalupe, Lazaro, or Mercedes. Patty Duke's family wasn't like us either. They didn't have pork on Thanksgiving. They ate turkey with cranberry sauce. They didn't have yuca. They had yams like the dittos of pilgrims I colored in class. 4. A week before Thanksgiving, I explained to my abuelita about the Indians and the Mayflower, how Lincoln set the slaves free. I explained to my parents about the Purple Mountain's majesty, 1 if by land, 2 if by sea, the cherry tree, the tea party, the amber ways of grain, the masses yearning to be free, liberty and justice for all, until finally they agreed. This Thanksgiving, we would have turkey, as well as pork. 5. Abuelita prepared the poor fowl as if committing an act of treason, faking her enthusiasm for my sake. Mama set a frozen pumpkin pie in the oven and prepared candied yams, following instructions I translated from the marshmallow bag. The table was arrayed with gladiolas. The plattered turkey loomed at the center on the plastic silver from Woolworths. Everyone sat in green velvet chairs we had upholstered with clear vinyl, except for Tio Carlos and Toti, seated in the folding chairs from the Salvation Army. I uttered a bilingual blessing, and the turkey was passed around like a game of Russian roulette. Dry, Tio Berto explained, and proceeded to drown the lean slices with pork fat drippings and cranberry jelly. Ese mierda roja, he called it. Faces fell when Mama presented her okra pie. Pumpkin was a home remedy for ulcers, not dessert. Tia Maria made 3 rounds of Cuban coffee. Then Abuelo and Pepe cleared the living room furniture, put on a Celia Cruz LP, and the entire family began to merengue over the linoleum of our apartment, sweating rum and coffee until they remembered it was 1970 and 46 degrees in America. After repositioning the furniture, an appropriate darkness filled the room. Tio Berto was the last to leave. Thank you.
I'm up, and AJ, you're on deck. And I'm short.
You got it?
No.
Oh, you got it.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Not that short.
There you go. That's good.
Okay.
All right.
Hi, my name is Lena.
Hi, Lena.
Hi. I took the food for thought part of this. This is a poem I wrote about a year ago, so it's before I wrote poems that rhymed, so it's going to be a little different than every other poem I will ever do here. It's called 3 Plates of Scrambled Eggs, Part 1. I suggested milk as an improvement, but the jug was empty like his pockets were. The last 2 eggs in the carton he dug his fingers into clumsily, like the way he rolled his cigarettes and clenched it hard as his hand swayed perilously close to the rein his voice competed with. And it was like happy birthday, when someone sings you happy birthday and you don't know what to do with yourself. But instead of happy birthday, it was his so-called livelihood, his future, what dragged him out to Nashville and left him milkless and left him dodging the rain for the good of his last cigarette, the smell of which still burns in my nose like the must of the attic mixed with the sage he'd burned that day. Maybe for him, maybe to calm those first date nerves, and maybe for me, maybe he thought that I'd need it, or at the very least he was glad that he did, because when he laid hands on my cards, he drew in a breath sharply, not at all like the drags of those cigarettes, and he told me he could sense my pain, all my energy that I'd allegedly put into those cards. And he must have known that already about me, like I knew about him, sensed the same pain from his voice over the phone, walked with him as he took the very first steps of the journey I was 2 years into, but not far enough done with to be what he needed. So I thanked him for the eggs, and it was genuine. I thanked him for waiting with me in the rain, and it was genuine. I was looking at him from the car as the driver took in those last moments and said, "He really loves you, doesn't he?" And I agreed, and I ghosted him, and I don't even remember his name anymore, but I remember the goosebumps exploding all over his skin when I dragged my fingernails over his neck, and I remember his roommate on the other side of the door reading us poetry darker than anything I'd share with strangers, and I remember the smell of those cigarettes, and I ghosted him. Thank you. AJ, you're up, and Britt, Peter, you are on deck.
Okay, Peter's next. Hey, Jay. How you doing? I want to thank her for her generosity. It's really helps me. You know, you do that and help things go faster.
All right. Well, hopefully, I'm gonna see if I can bang this out from memory, but it's gonna be probably make a few mistakes. So bear with me while I make mistakes. Right? I know it's on 9/11 here. So I'm going to try to speak up a little bit more clearly, and I'm going to start off by saying time and signature 4:52 p.m. PST on a Friday. Class Zipper 3C. The classy seat to the perpendicular thought for the 3 was a junction in space when a time attacks. I stepped down for survival, very silly like, engaged for survival, very silly like clown came to me. The thought of the revolution which corners us all, only for unity shall beckon the hearing, the blast, and shimmering hope for anticipation in the call. The time of our slanders and pretentious protection, the thought comes to mind for 3 rare rejections. I'll just come right out and say it. 7th Angel, stage reflections. The representation and the clashing of cultures surely beaten up for third world relations. How does this relate to parallels and junctions? Get the figures. The subjective hypocrisy appraised with an angle. The tail that the cat's paw has shall search in the link, otherwise copula deviation. Follow with reversing the thread or suffer the mayhem. The time to remember again and attributes from here to there, hands to and fro. Again, the origin of our problem is subject to win. I put her and her friends on this abstract cat. A pedestal. This abstract cat. Such a rich and educated loser. Emotions run. A pedestal, you see, a congruent reflection of a number called 3. All the time is nothing will. Drives and endurance is a true button pusher. Lost and then found, throw it down, then pick it back up, and then throw it back down again on the ground. Variables are so random, the simple she wear will be glassy and fancy. A description of the symbols that have created union as I define my in, my out, my dependence as I wait for that. The conjunction, the slimy sliver that tries to live inside thee. When power rolls over as a juggler. The balls in the air are falling from the pressure. She subjectively stated that this finger sickens, as I shall back up and say that a trumpet sound, holy, 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 may see, as a joke may thicken. Sit back and enjoy the fly in order to order. Point of the Trinity is a typical statement. When expressing the concepts of the divinely immaculate, the divinely immaculate, the The divine and immaculate. Oh, that's one slap in the face right here. We all have proceeds, because I didn't even look there. We all, for divine and immaculate for proceeds, we all have proceeds for people. For a phrase of the clauses too. A job to do. Conjunction, adjunction, my junction, exemplary. Be scrutiny in the world of thee. See glass, pet of the lamb. As it shall be. For the word hath spoken purposes. So take it all from me and twist me up. To thee, I shall try to follow. From the heart to the mind, within the soul, as an order. What's that cat's name? Who fucking cares? Operations are considered for further research, my love, for self-stimulation to break even. I guess the subject has to be objectified at some point in time, right? Some point in fucking time, right? Without the odds, without the system, trust right to right to wrongs. Light that up. The mystery is the inspiration for the ever so necessary to buy in line. And the rest of the situation. So cover that up and do some exposure. They're drawing some lines. It seems necessary. It seems necessary, but I think it seems to be thin and wafer light. It came out slightly different in the repeat states. Line for line, not so far and few in between. Discard, discard. Repent of your sins. We all know the story, but the truth always spins. Now you're all alone. And we close with the third. It's a mysterious trinity calls with your trickery, so who truly wins? Better than zero, the only one left. That's not right. The middle comes back. The styles will change, don't worry, however. We'll jungle as it all went back. What happened when that happened? The Jimbo, a little bit of liver, glass liver, street stripper. Follow it hit home real hard. So please, God, resubmit, complete the feeling. Emotional assault! Calculated kindness, confession with finesse. Taught from this circle, we're all ready for it, I think. Speak for others. You clearly did it first! Bring a line to the surface, internet search. Yourself, as you shall interpret it, as you shall speak for I. Searches, another shift in direction. The floor is not a ceiling, because it's a trap. It's a fake name anyways, actor. ... They'll never know. Stay with me, Angel. Fuck. Line up! I. There we go.
Here. Feels nice around as he comes up here.
And Vincent, you're on deck.
Vincent is on deck. You're on that deck.
Okay. Devil's Gulch 3. Lee Poe came across Kenneth Rexroth along the trail through Devil's Gulch. They'd known each other for a long time. Now they walked together, arriving at a little cabin that's no longer there. Went in and took a nip of hard liquor, what Sam Levine called schnapps. Then they set up around a quiet waterfall. Each reached into their own backpack, one for his writing kit, pen, ink, and scroll. The other for an old book, the signature of all things. They spent the afternoon at work, and there was no need for words between them. Food for thought. The mind drifting back, a several-course meal for all the crew in the large shed at a Basque ranch near Susanville. Many times over, lunch at the U.S. restaurant, food for thought, poets, dancers, journalists, winemakers, educators, good talk. Pasta al pesto and calamari, the beautiful sisters brought the rough red wine and totaled the bill. Your cabbage borscht, lemon and sugar, master mixer without a recipe, 56 Sanchez Street, the bay window and Murphy bed, our first place just getting started. Food for thought, cultural passage, food, traditions carried through thousands of years, the sizzle of it, the tumbling memories passing through several worlds, the recently imagined tiramisu, or those magnums of Barola brought by Roger, 1970, flowing kitchen talk going on until 3 a.m.
All right, Vincent, you're up. Stephanie, you're on deck.
The mighty Stephanie Manning is on deck.
So let's do some 9/11 haikus. It's the best I could do. Start it off. This is all just the last couple days, and I just started writing these this morning, so there's about 5. Waking up to fear, America to its knees, Bush's wars begin. Twin smokestacks in view, 1,000 orphans that day. September is blue. Conspiracies vast, Saudis flew all the planes west. Enemies are here. Explosions up high, monuments below, 18 years later. Passport stamps plenty, 9/11 grounded them. Fear of flying now. Thank you. Our current San Francisco Poet Laureate took a month trip, and she'd been posting on Facebook till I couldn't handle it anymore. So I had to write this poem, and I included food for thought in it. This is called St. Paul Approaching, and if you've never been to Minnesota, you will in this poem. A twin cities of dashed and dotted roadways, its broken edges chipping onto a turnoff of dried venison and fry bread. A yellow warbler shares his song atop a branched open window, its reflection muffled until dawn. A ragged, faceless scarecrow drooped over a vastness of cornfields. Off-colored oblong rustic stones aligned the curved root upward. Her fingers bent downward, pushing the thread through the eye of the needle. A beaded frog now looks sideways. A black streak over one eye meets his spotted loins. His quick tongue grabs a mayfly. A cavalcade of rippled foam near a gallivanting waterway. Decades-old tree trunks holding its banks. Small leaves collecting around half-submerged limestone and glistening granite. A half-empty yellow school bus, ambles parallel near its next stop. Brown bag lunches, hoping to trade. A bridge never failed the gap of tribal communion, suspending beneath the severed bones, held within tightly woven baskets. The women carrying water. A baby whelps at the cloudy sky. A Chippewa arrowhead dangles around a tarnished brass doorknob in the abandoned rusted-out roof over an automotive plant. Welfare lines. A promiseless generation needs to eat. Pinecone seedlings catch the propulsion of the rubber tires, sifting outwards, splaying the asphalt. Its great-great-grandmother holds the log cabin foundation atop a browning hillside. A yearling red-tailed hawk dips down over his right wing, fawning for his paternal's attention. A bloodied field mouse clamped tight in his piercing beak. A deer's hooves cantering in the echoing distance. A circling black fly aimlessly whizzes near. A glaring alabaster water tower ahead reads, "Sleepy Eye." On the horizon, her right hand holds the wind. Her other rests on his frayed denim, exposing his scarred kneecap. The car visor at half-mast. A harvest feast in the distance as the vernal equinox approaches. Thank you.
Stephanie, you're up. Owen, you're on deck. And wow.
Roche Tuki, that means hello in Chochenyo, which is East Bay language. In San Francisco was the Ramai Tush, and if you can find any Ramai Tush expressions, please let me know.
Speak up, Stephanie.
All right. I'm going to read my last poem. I'm going to read from the Women of the Beat Generation. And this is by Joanne Kiger. It's a great day. Last night I visited my old childhood town of Lake Bluff, Illinois. The Creelys and Philip Whalen were there. I took a walk to Lake Michigan with Philip to see it all, built up in the form of a great amusement center. Lost in its intricacies, I go to work. Stepping out a door, I land in a great field and run a tractor up and down the rows. Not exactly enough, to be sure, and run back into the amusement center, donning my waitress uniform on the way before I get caught. Oh, ladies of the Middle West, how do your hands get rough? What is this self I think I will lose if I leave what I know? Back into the dark bedroom and aimless, unhappy adolescent lives, lacking any commitment to the actual living ground. Life becomes pointless in its urge for culture, quote unquote, art. There, I have said it in all its simpleness. The best teacher lives outside. The best teacher lives inside you, beating blood, breathing air. The best teacher is alive.
Owen, you're up.
Again, people being generous with time. I love it. This is fantastic.
Ed.
Oh, okay. Ed, you're on deck.
Everybody, William of Orange couldn't make it.
So we have a problem with the time warp?
You know, I think so.
I have chapbooks for sale. My chapbook, Tight Sung Outcry.
There's also an upcoming feature here in October.
This is my latest poem. Park. Golden Gate Park at the edge of Haight Street, perpendicular to Standing Street. It's a prose poem. Standing Street and other sorrows. Oh yes, tomorrow will come, but where will I be? Off and beyond, going to another world, had be worlds and worlds, words in a wordless world, words in a world that can kill me, sharp like the teeth of the piranha fish, biting. I am like a placid cow in the midst of the Amazon. Words of their world that is razor sharp and biting, tearing me down. On memory. The day wears on and I, the forgetful one, sitting. My memory is and I remember back. I should have been back, my slack, and alas, alack, I remember not in time. The chimes I bought, flying and forgetting the time of day. I hurry out. This poem should rhyme, but there is no reason. This is the summertime season. The sun shines over the library and the park, where I sit puzzled and perplexed over the usual records and romance and groping. Next time, I take no chance. On Tight Sung Outcry. Rhymes and verse of humanity and its foibles. Life, the bliss of the quotidian. I read my own book, Panis Angelicus. Hart Crane gave me a lift. Clary Hoodcomb Sonnet. A day like all days fills me with sullen thrills. Hour after hour, I sit and wonder. Fit, hot and heavy, the day fills me with clay and spit. The wish for words and song. I want more sauce and service. I am glad and sad. Oh, it cannot be as bad as it appears to be. As bad as my schemes and dreams, the more I want to take, the less. Library Opus, DuPage Street. Stacks of books, sci-fi, and more are high sitting there on the shelves of love and serenity. It is 12 o'clock in my mind. Oh, I try to believe in being and nothingness, the death of Peter Fonda, a dance of doing nothing and something, Believe in something, go at nothing. Scatter your thoughts to the wind as though they were meant for roses and lilies. Well sent I am. Eine kleine, I am bent. 2 short poems. There is a pimple that moaned in the dark. Being with Aaron was like writing speeches for Nixon. James Liddy, a memoir. James Liddy was a creative writing instructor I took 2 classes from at San Francisco State way back in '68. He was a native of Ireland, County Roscommon, a poet and a barrister. He held classes in a small college on on Waller Street in the Haight. He liked my work and we became friends. He was honest in his criticism of my poetry. No, Wally, they're on an ego trip, he would say of his some rivals. Ston Rice, the late Ston Rice, is one of his rivals. I was a pale goblet stem of a boy. A pale goblet stem of a boy indeed. Decadent rubbish, Wally. He was honest with me considering my poetry. That was bad, Wally, he said of one of my poems that tried to be mystical in an Eliot-esque way, but ended up being vague and semi-nonsensical.
Thank you, Mr. Owen.
Thank you very much.
Ed, you're up. Ed is up, and Lisbeth, you are on deck.
Mr. Ed Mycue, the Honorable Mr. Mycue.
Our village elf.
I have 3 poems here. Am I close enough?
Get a little closer there.
A little closer. All right.
Fine.
That's good.
I was born into this world, the queer challenge. I was brainwashed to be heterosexual, and I guess my body must have just asserted itself, and it was a soft surprise to me. But my older brother Dave was always early worried about me being just like a girl in my feelings, even though I was a butch little toughie and could shit kick anybody, except in the 3rd grade in Sacred Heart Grade School in Niagara Falls. Joanne Romo, my best friend, kicked my ass for stiffing her nasty little brother. Now I wonder if they are all right. If I'm 82, so is Joanne, and her little brother may be 81, that little shit. I left Niagara with my mom and dad, Jack, my mom, Ruth, and dad, Jack, and David, Peter, Margot, Cookie, Janie, and Arda. And I was 11, and Dallas was a big surprise. I still didn't know I was homo or queer. It didn't kick in for a long time, me realizing my affections and sexuality were on a trajectory off in a direction different from most others. Well, I finally volunteered for the queer challenge when I was older. One lump for the lot of us. Thinking is a gift and a burden, I think, as I look out a window. A squirrel scampering on a power line chased by a small bird. Deaths of artist, writer, composer, etc. is a time of inventory. Whole humanity is parent, poet, artist, phosphorescent pilots. It is a time for taking a cup of tea in a public place. One lump for the lot of us. We are survivors in the forests where night is a dream, and we are dreamt by trees. We are victims, but trees of the words. Words that are the veils, where there are stones that are moss covered. Trees signed to the stones. Sky high explosions pop, lock, break, and you can never forget what happened because We are the survivors in these forests where we remain and where the trees have dreamt us.
Lisbeth, you're up. Martin, you're on deck.
Martin is on deck, for God's sakes. This is Lisbeth Daly, y'all.
Clocked in?
Hello.
Oh, you want me to blow it?
Okay.
I can do this, you know.
Please, thank you.
Please.
Wow, that's really short.
No. Just speak straight into it. That's the main thing.
All right, got it.
All right.
Okay, new one.
No shit.
Okay, junkie. Isn't it obvious? It's this world. Oil. The junk of this world. The slick that makes everything slide so smooth, makes life so easy. Go down that unfreeway in some boss gas hog, laying rubber, skidding, hydroplaning on the undrinkable rainbow swirls. We each and all of us hooked on its sweetness like antifreeze, like the sugar of lead paint. It's not this world. She has no use for oil, pesticides, transportation, money. She is not defenseless. Her original nature, unbeatable in her persistence, riding out every wave, however tidal, every quake, no matter the scale. The dandelions that rise through the concrete, small yellow suns outshine the tarred gravel, creating new worlds in microcosm. In infinite time, her persistence will overwhelm all man-made constructs. Thank you.
Hello, Martin. Martin.
A big hand for the master here, Mr. Daniel Brady, who gives so generously of his time. And of course, now my link died just like that.
Don't you hate that?
Don't you hate that? Among the intellectuals, they were a restless tribe. They did not sit in sunlight, eating grapes together in the afternoon. Cloud watching among them was considered a disgusting waste of time. They passed the days in an activity they called thought-provoking, as if thought were an animal, and they used long sticks to poke through the bars of its cage, tormenting and arousing thinking into strange behaviors. This was their religion. This and the light shining through the stained glass ancestors. They preferred the name of the tree to the taste of the apple. I was young. I wanted to prove myself. But the words I learned from them transmuted me. By the time I noticed, the change had already occurred. It is impossible to say if this was bad. Inevitably, you find out you are lost, really lost, blind, really blind, stupid, really stupid, dry, really dry, hungry, really hungry. And you go from there. But then you also find you can't stop thinking, tormenting, and talking to yourself. That's by Tony Hoagland, the late Tony Hoagland. As published in the August 26th edition of the Niyaka. Yeah, I like to write food poems. Probably my first poem of the free verse ilk. It's called Windfall. Apples. Yes,
The cherry yellow pie kind, striped sweet and crisp, find the ground and rot. I've always lived near trees, but yesterday I found a bird, a quail, pounding out life. Yeah, a quail my window had clearly killed. You know, Dan, I worry about finding things, friends, money, love. But this bird, her breast still warm, gave me to understand waste is not loss, nor wealth gain. No dumpster, an oven dessert, her soft remains, which I plucked and baked with rice. Come on, why waste it? I couldn't do that now because I don't eat meat, but in those days I wasn't so fussy. And then, yeah, I know my work tends to be so conversational. Is he done yet? Do we have to listen? I love it when I'm reciting a poem to somebody that I just happen to inflict it on, and they start arguing with the poem. You know, wait, it's a bit, let me finish. This is called, what's the name of the street over there by IKEA? Shell Mound. On the bluff above the bay where coastal hills fall, a wellspring rises. People gathered baskets carried up the cliff to clean and cook their catch while children played with shells for generations. The gleaming walls rising like calcium castles surrounding home. You know, to walk this mound an hour or so is the story of each of us. To discover and share who knows how much of what. There's no need for concern so long as we lend to the layers, add some small increment to the incline, that here we fed upon the earth and were withal devoured. Public service announcement for myself anyway. Sunday I'll be reading in the Petaluma Poetry Walk, which I have brochures about if you're interested in attending that. Fabulous.
There's a flyer here, there may be others.
Yes, I have more. I gave some out earlier. And then a new poetry series starting October 5th, first Saturday of the month, at the Black and Brown Social Club on Valencia Street, where our first feature will be no less light than Tongo Eisenmartin and JM, what? MJ. Well, we got her initials anyway.
MK?
MK? MK? No, not Miss Chavez. No, she's a young poet that Tongo recommended that we have. So there's that. And
what's the address?
476 Valencia Street. And there will be a brief, ever so succinct, open after the two features. But keep in mind that this event is sponsored by the League of Revolutionaries North America, and we're all committed Stalinists, so don't bring any of your Trotsky shit in there or we'll throw you out the door, okay? Thank you very much. Well, doors at 7:30, poetry at 8.
He's going to give me the information. I'm going to put it on the calendar, so I'll keep it.
Well,
eat you up. That's me, right?
Yes, Cursive Writer, you're on deck.
Who's on deck?
Cursive Writer.
Curve the rider, you're on deck. All right.
I'll do that again.
What?
I was ready to go with you.
Oh, no, sorry. I do things like that to get my own attention. So, you know, 9/11 was a very interesting event, and this poem here is about that, and let us just say it was an interesting event. It was written about 9 years ago, and darn it, it's still current. Anyway, it was written on December 31st, 2009. Anyway, last day of the year. I'll tell of 9/11 once more, a date that is a number. So, let's do the math, shall we? But since many people are logic challenged and math deficient, for example, many can't balance a checkbook or maintain a surplus, while others will never be held to account, I'll begin simply with 6 minus 5. And you'll think, hey, that's simple. It's 1. But there's a principle involved here in more ways than one, believe me. But I'll leave that to others and for later so I can get back to the numbers. The principle is that an even number, any even number, subtracting an odd one, any odd number, will yield an odd number, an odd result. Get it? The skinny is this. Take even away from odd equals odd, and 9/11 was an odd one out to say the least. But let us go to ground zero, shall we? Where those towers burned, gulls now fly, smiling, unconcerned. Now each tower was a rectangular prism. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to leave anyone behind, no child left behind, as they say. This means they had 4 sides, an even number of sides. Rectangular prisms always have an even number of sides. And any rectangle can be divided into halves, into exact matching halves. And any such dividing line is called a line of symmetry. Each tower had lines of symmetry. Many such lines, since the tower's design was evenly balanced. So when the planes impacted the towers, each a very singular, meaning 1, meaning odd, event, compromising their symmetry as they took away or subtracted support off to the side. The buildings then, put off balance, should have reacted in kind, first tilting in response, then falling toward their damaged sides, all due to the unbalanced, aka odd, subtraction from an even system, which had their unbalanced supports. Thus the collapse should have been asymmetrical, offside, providing us with the expected odd result. Instead, the towers collapsed symmetrically, as if the damage had been perfectly centered, perfectly balanced, absolutely even, but we know that wasn't so. The planes hit off center, to the side, remember? This means that something had to compensate for the odd subtraction of the planes, to rebalance the equation, so to speak. But as to that, what it was, as I said, I'll leave it to others. Suffice it to say that with the collapse of the towers, if the story given to the public is to be believed, the whole world witnessed a singularity unique in all time and space, where an even number, a symmetrical structure, was subtracted of an odd input, the plane's damage, and yet we got an even result. Truly odd, don't you think? They say molten steel was cooling in the deepest basements for weeks and weeks after. Would that be evidence of another singularity? Perhaps a balancing input? Why would there have been molten metal in the basements? What caused it to melt? No explanation has been offered. They say that at least $500 million in gold bullion disappeared on the day never to be found, and one wonders why. What with the searching and sorting so dutifully monitored and broadcast on 24/7 TV, which found rings and wallets and ID cards, but missed all that gold. They say the Enron case records were destroyed along with Building 7, and there was the changing of the management and security guards before the surprise event. Is that all interesting, or what? Who knows the answers to these painful questions, or where they will take us, or to whom and why? As I said, there's a principle involved here in more ways than one, but I guess I will leave that up to you, because it is your call, your choice, your nation, and if you don't make of it what you will, well, then you leave it to others. And if that does not make you happy, then you must decide what it's worth, because now you know. And now even you can do the math and determine the sum of your reasoning. Thank you. Bring it right up.
it's going to leave me.
Well, it's gotta go up a
Wait,
little
wait,
bit.
there you go.
All right. All right. Here's my mantra. Just because you steal something doesn't mean you own it. This is still Indian country and you live on a lonely land. Freedom, freedom. Walk by businesses, music carries to street, not street music. Think freedom, freedom repeats over, over, over. Mantra till maybe all believe they're free. Think freedom and it will be for you and me. Think freedom, freedom, eerily Orwellian. Who the hell is Orwellian? Hang on or hang separately, we have freedom. Freedom. John Trudell posited freedom. If one is bound from birth, will they think that's freedom? As child untethered till now, everyone is tethered to someone, something, corporate, past, future, present. Tethered. The new lifestyle. Yeah, dance through this scene. Here comes break, dance. Break, dance. Heartbeat of the African drum. Boom, 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 boom. As the indigenous drum, heart beats, as one and on the one. Heart beats, beat, 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 beat. Freedom as the freed heart, mind. Tough to do in the mental inquisition where everyone's required to answer to questions for identification purposes only, of course. Beware if you have the wrong answer or after being badgered, knowing the right answer, refuse to give. A standstill where heart beats faster, faster, faster. Nothing gained is at the standstill, where our roots suck up the muck and no one really gives a. Why? Because we have freedom. If I had a gun, it would have more rights than I do. It's protected, always handled gently after maiming, killing. Protect my gun, not me, you, her, they, child, elder. People disposable, guns not. We get over these things quickly. Even lately seems to be fading, but lasting longer than usual, almost forgotten. Maybe if hell existed, might freeze over, lest mother becomes the great snowball too. Guns won't matter, they'll be laid to rest with the Homo sapiens who died for filthy lucre. Cruelty of words, thought, action deranged on the range. Has time come today? I like to think so, but occasionally I have lapses, brain farts if you like, where I think things will get better as the world reels on its axis. If I had a gun. And finally, gringo looks. Gringo looks for justification, looks for the good times, no time for bad. Gringos struggled getting rid of all those troublesome Indians. One, because there was no end to the gringo. They just kept coming and coming and coming with killing machines, killing, scalping like good Christians are wont to do against those who don't believe, giving them the right to steal, kill, breathe. Exemptions from commandments given by their popes, sky gods. Same forces came together in slave trade from Africa to killing trains in Germany, both South African Bantustan policies, separating blacks from their lands, resources. Oh, but do you want to talk about it? Talk about what? Been enough said, but still no memory, no longer passing. What, me worry? I'll eventually be your ancestors whose words will be tossed into the winds or to some dead computer heap, giving the kiss of death. Death, who takes us from this plane, comes with a smile, never loses. Goodbye, good, bad, ugly. Death cares less what kind of Homo sapiens or humans you are. When it's time to go, it's time to go, the great leveler. Yes. The passing of death thing gives some great joy, others great relief, others sadness. Gringo feels secure for now with all the lies they told themselves, everyone else. Some believe. Others, information giving, believe Indian nations only began in California, or that the streets are actually paved with gold, or the land of milk and honey, but where human kindness died, disguised itself as Savior. Save yourselves, O Lord, save ourselves. No God's looking at what you're doing. The great finger does not exist, and if it did, what an asshole. Ask yourselves, are you a puppet? Undo your strings, stand, assert your humanity, cut your strings and join one family, the human family. Will we join the struggle to save ourselves? And the gringo looks.